It is time for the Mike Hewitt Show, brought to you by RenegadeRiver.com. And your host, Mike Hewitt, is ready to go. You've been ready for hours, haven't you, Mike?
Oh, I've been ready for a week. Listen, we've got this big itinerary written for today, and I got already add some extra stuff to it. Just because Renegade River is one of the sponsors for the show, I've got to start out real brief, and I don't want to make it a big part of the show, but did you get the impression from the talking heads that cars going down the sidewalk are not as lethal as guns?
Yeah.
It's like they were really, really disappointed that nut didn't use a gun and that he wasn't white. And when does it stop with these people?
I even heard some of them equate the knife to a gun.
It's insane to me. I get to use that word again. You could literally see on their face on TV they were disappointed that they couldn't say AR or that they'd already said it and it wasn't so. They went on active shooter. No, there wasn't no active shooter. These folks have no shame.
There was one shooter.
There was one guy that did a good job. And these folks are just over the top. I don't want to make the show about it today, but I was really... It's just flabbergasting.
Did you see the post about the lady, the diversity chair from there?
No, it wasn't.
That she posted that we shouldn't be celebrating this guy's death. We should be mourning his death and feeling his pain to feel that that's what he needed to do. And she's the diversity chair at Ohio State.
Yes, I don't understand those folks' kind of thinking. I'm by the way, I get it. I feel bad that he's a mental, but I'm awful darn glad that he can't hurt nobody else.
Yeah.
Well, Mike, we don't have an Islamic problem. They just have a workplace violence problem down there at Ohio State.
Yeah, and out at Texas at Fort Hood and everywhere else, they've had a lot of workplace violence problems that seem to all have the same tie. And it's it's almost beyond belief how far these folks are willing to stretch it. It reminds me, and I'll only briefly talk about it, but Miles, you know Alan Biles, and his daughter was murdered with a knife. And when I was in that gun debate, and I used that as an example, they dismissed it like her life didn't have value because she wasn't killed with a gun. And you just think, what sick minds think that way? I don't understand them, but. Enough of that. What I wanted to talk about a little bit with the show here is the flag. It kind of went around Facebook for the last several days. What Trump's tweet was as it pertains to the flag. And so I'm looking at it from what did Justice Scalia said when he actually voted in favor of allowing the flag, but then added... That's how the Constitution, I can't quote him, but that's how the Constitution reads, if it were up to me personally. And then he said essentially what Trump tweeted. Now, I lean classical liberal. I'm appalled by someone burning the flag. But I don't think it ought to be illegal. And I'm watching both sides of it on Facebook, still burning even today for the last 3 or 4 days on social media with people on both sides. Both sides of the argument, I think, I respect the idea on both sides of it. I think, though, that if we start redefining the First Amendment, we're on a real slippery slope.
Well, yeah, that's what the tweet that Trump did years ago at George Washington was about, getting rid of that. But I'm torn on it.
What did Trump tweet about George Washington?
That
years
take
ago?
Away the First Amendment is like leading sheep to the wolf or something like that. It was
George Washington tweeted that?
No, it was a quote. Trump tweeted it on Twitter.
Okay. Easy there.
Ouch.
But I'm torn because I think the flag means that much that if you're burning it, to me it's symbolically burning down the country. But at the same time, I'm all about the First Amendment, and I will defend your right to do what you want. However, if I see you doing it, I'm probably going to jail because I'm not going to allow it. Which means I'm going to go over and you're going to be laying flat on your back.
So some folks would say you're a fascist.
No.
I'm just saying. You're trying
patriotic.
to... listen, I am also, but so was... And I'm not trying to be shrill, but so was Hitler.
No.
And that's why they would call you a fascist. And I'm telling you, the reason I'm saying it is the purpose of the First Amendment is not to protect us from things that we agree with. It's to protect those folks that are saying things that we absolutely abhor.
Yeah.
That's the purpose of it. Listen, the left says things every single day that well, we just talked about it. That killing people with a car isn't as bad as if you killed them with a gun. And you go, what? I think those things are insane. But I passionately will fight for their right to be insane if that's what they choose. I think it's deplorable, to use her word. I think they're deplorable. I do. I think that folks that are burning the flag are over the top, ugly people inside. I think that. But I don't know that the First Amendment should be altered because you and I reject what they're saying.
No,
I wrestle with that.
It shouldn't. But
Miles, what say you?
So I kind of separated the tweet from. I didn't get the impression he was trying to alter the First Amendment. I agree with the First Amendment as well. I think what he was trying to get at was his sentiment. I think we all have problems with certain things, but I think we also come back and acknowledge what the Constitution says. So I didn't interpret his tweet as trying to override or alter the First Amendment. I think he was just trying to express what his personal sentiment about it was.
No, I agree with you 100%. I think some folks ran, by the way, on both sides of the aisle, some folks ran off with it without pausing to think. My reason for injecting Justice Scalia into this dialogue is because Justice Scalia actually said both sides of that, like I'd mentioned. On one hand, he was in favor of allowing it because he believed that's what the Constitution, the original intent of the Constitution's First Amendment was. But then he added, if it were up to me, would, and then he said essentially what Trump did. And I think he was exactly right with that. That's at least how I see it. I kind of think that's your point, right, Miles?
Yeah, I mean, and if you think about it, it's the same thing that with what Kaepernick's doing, who, by the way, is coming to Chicago this Sunday.
Oh, good for you.
When Moron won't stand up for the national anthem, does he have the constitutional right? Sure. But is it necessarily the most intelligent way to express his concerns? Well, I'll let the audience decide.
You know, it's amazing what impact not just he, but that mindset has had on the financial side of the NFL.
Yeah, I mean they're having the lowest ratings ever this season.
Yeah, so those folks have the right to do what they do, and of course, then I have the right to say I'm not participating in your sport until you develop some values. Because I think it's valueless. They thought what was that comment he made about what a wonderful duo, or referring to Fidel Castro and Che Guevara, and you go, what do you mean a wonderful duo? These people were murderers. We didn't disagree about whether we should increase or lower taxes. Those people were murderers. And I don't get that mindset. I don't understand how folks like him can look at those circumstances and rationalize that these were great people. And that's what he said. And we're not disagreeing on bus sizes. We're big thing difference.
And then when you couple that with the fact this guy doesn't even participate in voting, so
right.
He's not even involved.
Well, he's using his position of within, as a what do they call him, a spotlight person, a star, whatever word we want to apply to him. He's using his fame to advance his political agenda, and he'd probably think that's more powerful than a single vote. Perhaps it is, but when I listen to someone that's bravoing for Guevara and Castro, I'm there's nothing there to support. In my book, whether he votes or not, I get your point about the voting. There are a lot of folks that do that, though. I remember when I would manage larger companies and people be walking down the hallway grumbling about their taxes. Did you vote? No, then stop. You're all done. You've used up your opportunity to grumble about your taxes. I always liked it when Democrats grumbled about their taxes, by the way. You specifically voted for this. Bully for you. So, I mean, it's a fascinating thing. That's what I say. listen, folks, we're going to go to a break. And is that right? Yeah, we're going to a break. He nods, yeah, we are. So we're going to go to a break, and we'll be right back.
You're listening to The Mike Hewitt Show.
Renegade River, guns and ammo, and so much more. Old-fashioned service with surprisingly low prices. On M104 at the top of the new 231 bypass in Utica. Or find us at renegaderiver.com, because you deserve it.
The Mike Hewitt Show is brought to you by renegaderiver.com. Segment 2 has started.
So I'm looking at this picture on Facebook, of course, and it is a picture of President-elect Donald Trump with a very mischievous smile on his face, sitting beside a fellow with a very sheepish smile on his face. That'd be Mr. Romney. Miles, is that going to be a great Secretary of State pick?
Yeah, I got to tell you, of all the moments you and I have argued about Trump, this is one of those where I'm kind of looking a little sideways at our president-elect.
Let me defend him for one moment. So we'll switch roles here. When I watch on social media, first off, social media has become, to me, at least to some degree, just short of people with pitchforks and fire sticks in cobblestone streets. Meaning it almost seems to foster mob rule. But if you throw a name out, should he pick Petraeus? A blob of people will attack Petraeus. So then you throw out, okay, should he pick Giuliani? And a blob of people will say the exact same kind of things about him. And then it's like there's not a single person that Trump could pick for that role that there wouldn't be a blob of people with pitchforks and cobblestones and fire sticks. And in the end, I'm not a big Romney fan. I know you aren't either, but it ain't our choice. And I don't know if he's dangling it to, as I keep hearing people on the radio joke about, if he's doing the Lucy and the football thing or if he's very sincere. But in the end, he's going to prove it's his choice.
Right, and I completely agree with that. And I understand that there's baggage with Petraeus. I'm a Giuliani fan. I think the problem I've got with Romney is that Romney was the poster boy of the Never Trumpers.
Right.
He went out of his way. He went to extraordinary ends, okay, to pitch Trump, which is why I've got extreme problems with Romney.
Doesn't it make you wonder what Trump is really thinking, though? Because Trump's no dummy. I mean, this guy's a pretty brilliant guy. And the folks listening, but if you don't like him, if you do like him, whatever that part, you got to confess, he's a pretty brilliant fella. So right now, he's got to be sitting there like I talked about when I first broached this topic. He's got just the absolute Cheshire cat, big. I mean, he's having fun with this, with Romney sitting beside him. You got to wonder what he's thinking.
I completely get on board that if this is, a way to return volley back towards him, just to let him down in the 11th hour, then I'm okay with that.
But if he actually nominates him, you're not going to be a very happy guy.
No, because you know what? This is what Nikki Haley was.
Yeah.
Nikki Haley was the bone thrown at the establishment. I was never a big governor if y'all would just shut up.
Right.
Okay, going back to her American response to the last State of the Union.
Yep.
So I will swallow Nikki Haley for the idea that we need to throw the establishment a bone. Not to mention the chief of staff, Mr. Priebus.
Priebus was on his side most of the time.
Yeah, Priebus was, and but in fact, according to Trump, and I happen to agree with him, I think that if you watch the Trump candidacy, it straightened out dramatically from the Gettysburg speech on,
mm-hmm.
and as the story goes, that's when Priebus got deep into the campaign and said, "You've got to get on message," and I really think he pulled it together enough to have this victory. But listen, one of the things I thought about when I was watching all of the social media explode over all of these three supposed names, and in truth, maybe they're talking about tea and crumpets, and they're not even having this dialogue. We really don't know what they're doing. But one of the things that occurred to me when I saw one big long litany. You can't choose Giuliani because he's anti-gun. He's pro. What do you call that city?
Sanctuary city?
So, yeah, he's pro-sanctuary city when he was a mayor. They listed all of these things that he was, but these are all domestic disagreements. And I say it that way because being a Secretary of State has a lot more to do with global relations than it does domestic policy. So I'm wondering if Trump isn't backing in this using strictly the criteria of what is the function of a Secretary of State and saying whose resume looks best when I hold it up to that list, rather than an ideological litmus test, which is what I see on Facebook, etc.
I think you got three candidates that are three completely different, and one main reason I look at that is Romney is a floppy fish, meaning he has no spine, and Petraeus and Giuliani, they got a spine and they'll tell you where to put it.
Yeah, but listen, I don't know if we think. By the way, I'm not a big Giuliani fan. I don't dislike him. This is another one of those areas where Miles and I are on reading opposite play sheets. I don't dislike him, but I look at his resume and go, I don't see a Secretary of State. I don't see a world-recognized figure other than his high-paid consulting agreements in just the last few years. And I don't want to say that puts him on Hillary scale, but his only outreach to the globe was through his consulting company for a relative short period of time.
Well, mentioning Hillary, you got to mention Petraeus too, though.
Well, listen, Petraeus is a different sort. This guy's got a lot of experience, but I don't know that it's the kind of experience that makes me think he's a diplomat, because that's not.
Yep.
That's not.
Yeah, but Mike, I would put forth a couple of things here. If you went to New York City back in the 70s, which I did,
right?
Okay. And you went to New York City in the 90s after Giuliani got through cleaning up that swamp. There was a world of difference. It was like two different worlds.
Right.
Okay. And then I would also put forth, remember what Giuliani meant to the country immediately after 9/11. So he has that sense of relationship that he can build. And I think the other thing, too, in Romney's defense, perhaps Romney's bathroom is large enough to hold an email server.
Wow. Only thing I'm saying is that when I look at all of your list of things for Giuliani, you and I are in absolute agreement. But I don't know how that makes him a world diplomat. Nothing on the list of things that make me want to pat him on the back and say thank you very much for being a patriot. That doesn't say, and now you get to be a world diplomat. When I look at I gotta add up again. I'm not a big Romney guy. On the other hand, Romney has been in the political arena on the world stage, and that causes me to say that's probably what Trump is looking at.
When has he done that?
Along with the fact that Trump gets to say, you ran twice and lost, and I'm your boss now. How do you like that? I'm still trying to decide if I want to hire you. You're not. You got to know Trump loves that position.
I was talking the other day with somebody, and we think that when Trump wants to fire someone, they should hold a special press conference, and there's a large conference table.
You do it,
and they
you're
sit
fired.
across the side, and they give every reason why they didn't mess up, and then he tells them you're fired. People would tune in for that. Public execution by firing.
Where do we get this guy?
But listen, he would fire Romney in a heartbeat if Romney didn't do what he wanted. He doesn't care. Here's the deal. Romney talked out against him in March during the primary.
Yep.
He shut his mouth during the general when he knew it was important.
No, he didn't.
For the most part, he come out lambaste him like that.
Yes, he did.
When?
He was off the hook right up until the edge of it, and then still said he wasn't voting for him. Wow. That's what got folks like Miles twisted up. Am I wrong, Miles?
No, that is it.
And you kind of hard to argue with that. I'm only saying I think Trump loves the idea of saying you're my employee. Maybe I haven't decided yet.
I've had to fight people, and then they're on my team the next week. So, and now I'm fighting for them.
Yeah, but look at you.
That's what happens. We're on the same team, and I think everybody's forgetting that still.
Oh, that's too funny. I get that part. And I, by the way, one of the things is, and we talked about it last week, we need to probably do a whole show on it, and that is that there is a lot of angst inside the Republican Party right now. I mean, a lot, not just a little bit. And this could be Trump's way of saying, okay, to your point, Miles, Nikki Haley wasn't enough to douse the fire. Let me use a bigger can of whatever you want to call him. I was lost for words that I could say.
Watch it not be any of the three. Just somebody out of left field.
He may be just having dinner and toying with them. So, all right, folks, we're getting the brakes on. We're going to go to a break. We'll be right back.
This is the Mike Hewitt Show.
RenegadeRiver.com is new and used firearms, all priced to sell, plus ammo, reloading supplies, optics, clothing, lasers, and yes, tactical gear. RenegadeRiver.com, family owned right here in Michigan, because you deserve it.
The Mike Hewitt Show is a service of RenegadeRiver.com.
So here's the question, folks. Everyone's talking about it, so we better beat it up for a few minutes. What is Jill Stein's, am I saying it right? Is it Stein?
Yeah, Jill Stein.
What's her real agenda here? Because she knows she's not going to flip the election. I see she's collecting an absolute boatload of money.
They say more than she got to run for president.
More than double. Yeah. More than double. Not just more, but more than double. She started out saying that the recalls she forecasted would cost between $1 and $1.5 million, and now that forecast is $7 million. But maybe Hillary's motive is money also, because Lord knows she likes a lot of money. But at the same time, is this to try to find some way at discrediting the Trump administration before it gets out of the bay? What do you think, Miles?
I think this is a pure money grab.
Do you think it's all about money?
The Democrats have been sending out a bunch of emails to their supporters to capture money. Jill is raising money. I do. I think it's a sheer money grab, given that even if she could flip 2 of those states, Trump still wins.
You ever noticed how these folks that love Marxism, that want to have everyone have equal, never actually want it? Like Fidel Castro left $600 million on an 85-foot yacht and some 85-acre estate while his people are in poverty. These folks are always, whatever they're accusing you of doing is what they're actually doing. It just always defies gravity to me that the public in total, especially their supporters, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, walking down the street that are supporting Democrat policies, don't scratch their head and say, how come all of these uber-rich people care about us, but we never get uber-rich ourselves? There's never any real wealth distribution unless they can steal it from someone else and give it to them. I just don't understand that, but you probably are right. I've been saying all along, though, that it was about money. It was about growing the Green Party's brand value, and then lastly, the bonus of it was to discredit President Trump. So that's been my take on it. But the problem with it is that it's going to cost the taxpayers of all 3 states they're targeting a lot of money. And by the way, the Green Party did exactly this in Ohio in 2004, and they spent millions of dollars to do it and found 300 votes. The idea of it is silly. It's stupid.
The thing that I love, Mike, is that the Clinton attorney that's going to Wisconsin is opposed to a recount in the North Carolina governor's race. Right.
They're very self-serving. It makes me wonder. Of course, the left media would say that they're just trying to make sure that we have a voting process that we can depend on. And I say, okay, well, then are you going to do a recount in L.A. County? Are you going to be doing one in down in Chicago? Are you going to be doing one in Boston? Are you going to do one in New York City? And the answer is obviously not. They're not going to look to where we've had historical voter fraud. They're going to places where there's never been any history of voter fraud. It just defies gravity that they're allowed to do this. Person in the state of Michigan, she gets 1.07% of the vote, and she's the one calling for a recount. it's just, it's laughable. Except for it's going to cost a lot of money. That's the part that's not laughable.
Well, and isn't her justification that the voting machines in certain precincts may have been fouled, but as I recall, and correct me if I'm wrong, Michigan votes on paper.
Michigan votes on paper, but the paper is tallied by machine, but the machine is not connected to the internet, and so
right.
it's just it's nonsense. And of course, one of the things that we've talked about on the show before is it took Michigan a long time to finally get to the point where they closed the books and said there's a vote count.
Monday.
Yeah, just Monday. And I say it that way, folks, because I think the state of Michigan went to the extra step to make sure that what they were going to certify was correct. And I just, these folks they've got a lot of gall, to use an old term. They have a lot of gall. They're not bashful at all. They can look right into the camera and explain things that just aren't so when they know it, and they don't even pause. It's fine with them. They have no moral compass at all. Am I wrong?
Yeah, no, I they're by virtue of their hypocrisy in North Carolina, and then them flipping the other way in across Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. I mean, it's there for anybody who wants to see it. The question is, do people want to look that far into it to actually see that?
Well, I think the average person, the average honest person, Democrat or Republican, realizes that this is not going to flip any states. I mean, there's just Michigan of the three is probably the best run election. I don't say that because I'm sitting in Michigan. I say it because I'm really involved in it. Michigan probably has the best election system of the three states, and it's also the closest or the most narrow victory for Donald Trump. So then you look at historical recounts. How many in history recounts have ever found 10,000 votes? And the answer is none. Not one. And we're the narrowest of the elections. So everyone knows this is not about that. And the folks that are sending in the checks, they're probably the ones that leave me the most dumbfounded. Why would someone write a check for this? What kind of mind thinks, yes, I'm going to send you $100 for this boondoggle that taxpayers also are going to have to pony up for?
Because I think that they're still living the dream, Mike. They don't want to accept what happened.
Listen, I wasn't excited when Obama won, but I wasn't demanding a recount. I wasn't tearing up and all of the rest of the nonsense we've been watching stroll across our TVs for the last few weeks. I don't understand that. It's like not accepting reality. But to send their money, I'm going to go work every day and I'm going to send $100 or whatever the amount is to an absolute waste of time. It won't flip the vote. And I see some Republican elector in Texas while we're on this topic. I just saw he flipped or he resigned, but right. he'll be replaced by the Texas Republican Party with someone else that will cast the vote for Trump. But you would have thought a message came down from heaven at the idea of this elector withdrawing. The media just couldn't wait to slobber all over themselves to tell that story. We live in very different times. You know what I mean? When you look at the world that we grew up in, I know Ludwig just started, but what are you hearing in school about the recount? By the way, speaking of you,
Nothing.
They don't talk about it?
No.
How can they not talk about it?
It was brought up for 20 seconds in my one class yesterday, and they started to blame Hillary. And I said, first of all, she's got her own problems, but don't blame her for this because she's not the one pushing it forward.
Why is she on board with it?
That being on board with it and pushing it forward is different.
That's what they say or you say?
That's what I say. Jill Stein.
How do you know that she's not the one that asked Jill Stein to do this?
I don't.
Because that's what I think.
And very well could be. But to blame her as if she's the one that's actually doing it, because we do not know that, isn't right.
She's the only one that has a motivation, right or not?
No. No, Jill Stein absolutely has a motivation. This lady is a nut. I said it from the day one. I was in class. I'm like, there's 4 candidates, and I went through them all, and I said, you got this nutty, bat, crazy lady, Jill Stein, who thinks she's like Merlin from New Hampshire that wants to get rid of ponies. She is a nut because she was trying to overrun conventions and the second debate. She showed up. They had to throw her off campus because she was trying to cause a ruckus to get on stage. She's a crazy person. This is all about her. This has nothing to do with anything else except for about her.
Then that begs a question. If she's off, if she's a nutcase, why would Hillary say, yes, sign me up with her?
Because Hillary's a nut.
Well, are you saying that half of America, plus or minus, is a nut?
Yeah.
Are you?
Yeah.
That's a big swing, I'm telling you. Hope you carry, but you may need protection in the parking lot. You say,
Don't worry. My Uncle Glock's always with me.
Jesus. This boy ain't right, I'm telling you.
Then I got a Renegade River.
Oh, they're nice, thanks. Yeah, boy. No, we did a background check.
Yeah.
But you may have lied about the mental thing.
No. I put on the Republican.
Very, very cool. Folks, we're going to go to a break, and when we come back, we're going to be diving into an Enigma report, right? There we go. We'll be right back.
You're listening to The Mike Hewitt Show.
Renegade River, guns and ammo, and so much more. Old-fashioned service with surprisingly low prices. On M104 at the top of the new 231 bypass in Utica. Or find us at renegaderiver.com because you deserve it.
This is The Mike Hewitt Show, brought to you by renegaderiver.com.
3, 2, 1, 0.
You have arrived to your final destination on your journey through reality. Welcome to the Enigma Report.
So here's the question. Back during the general election campaigning, it was disclosed that Hillary Clinton did a whole bunch of things that, let's say, were possibly outside the law. We could allege that she's guilty of a lot of crimes. But then we've got to pause and say, where's Donald Trump on that now? Is he not going to take a stance? Is he going to take a stance? He's awful silent on it. So the enigma for me is we saw a laundry list of things that she's possibly guilty of, and all of a sudden, poof, that's off of the table. No one's talking about it. And I'm going, how come we only selectively engage on some laws and not others? Miles, why do you think that President-elect Trump is silent on on charges against her?
You know, it's funny you asked me this, given that we texted each other about this a couple days ago.
I think it's not a coincidence.
I think Trump is staying in the tall grass because Obama still has the big pen.
Right.
And until Obama relinquishes the big pen, I don't think Trump is going to say high or low about this. Because if Trump started advertising what he was actually going to do, Obama could counteract that before he leaves the office.
Do you think that Obama is going to pardon her regardless of what Trump does or says?
That I don't know.
Ludwig is nodding up and down like the puppy dog in the back window from the old days.
We're going to pardon her from what? She didn't do anything wrong.
Well, but that's not how. But that's not how pardons work.
No, I know. But
just in case you could be a little guilty
from these dates.
Yeah.
Just anywhere from this date to this date, if you had done anything wrong.
Yeah, from like the year 1200 through current, if you were guilty of anything by some accident.
Jesse Jackson says Obama needs to pardon Hillary, and everybody goes, for what? She didn't do anything wrong, we thought.
Yeah, she's innocent, pure as driven snow and all of that.
Trump did start riding up this thing a little bit.
He pushed it. That's why
I'm not going to prosecute her. And then everybody went, wait a second. You don't make that decision. That's the Attorney General's decision. What are you doing? You're doing the same thing he's doing. And then he stopped completely.
Yeah.
I think he knew he stepped in a little bit and backed off. And
how do you think he stepped in? I don't get that. By saying because...
He's not going to. He has that
decision. But
he
campaigned on it.
Well, that, number one, campaigned on it. But two, he doesn't have that decision or the authority to make that decision. It's the AG's decision.
Okay.
And the investigation in the foundation's still ongoing. So that conclusion from the FBI could be that we want to pursue, and if Trump steps in and says no, that's no different than what Obama just did.
Who did he just pick as his AG?
Jeff Sessions.
Yeah.
Now, are you proposing that Jeff Sessions will continue on, and regardless of what Trump says or does?
He's measuring her up.
Measuring up for
Yeah,
an
like
orange,
the Old
for,
West when
for
you'd
an
have a
orange,
duel.
for an orange jumpsuit.
Yeah, like the duel, they go out and measure you before you had the duel for the casket. He's already doing that for her
See,
jumpsuit.
the difference that you and I have is I think that politics is always involved in this. So I think that Sessions is going to follow the lead that Trump mandates, and we can say that's just like Obama or not, or have that argument till the cows come home. But that's the way it's always been. There has always been an element of politics in it. Yeah.
But Mike, Trump could just stand back, let Sessions do his thing, and then Trump could come out and go, wow, I didn't realize Sessions was going to do this. Shucky Durny Wernies. I guess she's indicted.
Yeah, that could be. Yep. Plausible deniability. But that's typically how these things work. Obama probably never gave his AG a direction to do something. He just said, I wish this would happen or wish this wouldn't happen.
Oh, no.
And that's the direction.
I think he directly told her, you're not doing this.
You think so?
Oh, yeah.
What do you think, Miles?
About, because the issue is, and we even saw this in WikiLeaks, is that they actually showed that Obama knew about the email server.
Right.
Which would have been an impeachable offense other than there weren't enough calendar days left.
Right. The whole thing is incredible to me that we get to pick and choose which laws we want to enforce. That's really kind of what we're talking about here. Even on a street level, this guy was doing 85 miles an hour, but I know him, so I'm not going to. But this guy was doing 75 miles an hour, which is over the speed limit, and I'm writing him a ticket. And listen, I think cops should have that judgment call, but it's a judgment call to decide which laws he's going to he or she is going to enforce.
How can the Secret Service and the police be in a building when there's somebody on stage going, I'm an illegal immigrant, and not arrest them?
Right.
I just broke the law.
Right.
Nobody do anything to me. If I walked up on stage, hey, I just killed a guy out back.
Right.
They're coming to take me.
Right.
So they get to choose which one we see it. They say it on stage and say I'm a legal immigrant, and we watch the Secret Service and police in the place just clap like, yeah, good for you. Arrest them. They just broke the law. They stated they broke the law.
Help me understand something, Miles. This is really where I wanted to take this topic. You're a Trump-publican. What does drain the swamp really mean?
Well, relative to what I've always said is that this is about, going into Washington and upsetting a couple tables here and there, because the two establishment parties were just doing the same old, same old. So it was anything other than the same old, same old. I'm okay with his cabinet picks that are part of the establishment.
Especially Romney.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily go there. But I mean, I get his transportation pick. Look, that's that's the Senate leader's wife. I get that. Okay, I get Governor. If y'all would just shut up.
Right.
Okay, I get all that. He's got to throw him a bone. But you can still. I mean, look. What was his rule straight out of the gate? You can't be a lobbyist for 5 years.
Right. I liked that a lot, by the way. I applauded it.
Foreign lobbyists are lifetime.
Right.
So I mean, at least it's whether it's symbolic or not, at least it's moving in that direction of attempting to drain the swamp, which is more than Romney, McCain, Shrub, Dole, HW has ever done.
How come HW is not Shrub Senior or something like that?
Well, I mean, he's the big bush, and Shrub is the small bush, right?
Okay, so Alpine versus a yard shrub.
Trump's doing what I wanted him for.
What?
He's putting the right people.
You
in
switched
the right
boats
place.
so much during I have no idea where you ended up.
I was that closet Trumper.
So You were the shy conservative.
Yeah, no, he's doing exactly what I thought he would always do, is put the right people in the right place. He understands the game. If you want to get anything done, you still have to play the game. Now, how you play the game depends on who the players are, obviously. But
look, Mike, I mean, his HHS guy has put a plan forth every year since before Obamacare as to how to go about addressing the whole medical question.
Right.
Okay, so he is absolutely dead on with his HHS guy.
Yep, I agree with that. Yep.
Sessions got reamed in the Democrat Senate back during Reagan's second term.
For a judicial appointment.
Right.
Right.
So I absolutely get Sessions. Plus, Sessions was on board since the get-go.
Right.
Okay.
He was one of the first guys to say yep, right?
he was the first.
The first. Yep, from at least Congress.
Yeah.
Sure.
So I mean, there's some really good key appointments going on here. And if Secretary of Transportation happens to be an establishment hack, well, whoop-de-doo. I guess I won't be taking the bus today.
Did we forget about Carson?
Yeah, where's Carson at in this
HUD?
mix? Is he HUD?
HUD.
Yeah.
Has he been? He's not been named yet, though.
No, he was named. He's just waiting for Trump to be sworn in so they can continue with confirmation process.
But he's not said he's my guy, has he?
Yeah.
I didn't think he officially found it. Listen, I'm hearing music, folks. So what you got to do, and please do this. You got to find us on Twitter.
Hello.
at Talk Mike Hewitt. And, of course, on Facebook at / The Mike Hewitt Show and the MikeHewittShow.com, which we're starting to put podcasts on the MikeHewittShow.com. So, folks, thank you very, very much. We'll look forward to seeing you next week. You guys have a great day. Ludwig and Miles, thank you. Brian, thank you. Folks, we'll see you next week.
RenegadeRiver.com is new and used firearms, all priced to sell, plus ammo, reloading supplies, optics, clothing, lasers, and yes, tactical gear. RenegadeRiver.com, family owned right here in Michigan, because you deserve it.